Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Well, I'm delighted today to introduce my next guest in conversation, Rachelle Ballard Clayton. Now, Rochelle is a qualified health, movement and wellbeing coach, and her mission is to help women truly understand their amazing and unique body throughout their life transitions. Her philosophy is one of a holistic view. She feels that our body is intrinsically connected as a whole, and sometimes, somewhere along the line, we can lose the ability to really tune into our own physical and emotional needs. She teaches simple, quick health and well-being strategies to integrate into women's lives, and that's something that she's passionate about. Now, today we're going to talk about how to recognize stress in your body and what you can do to support yourself. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Rochelle, and it's so lovely to have you join me. I've been wanting you to be a guest for quite some time, but you've been very busy changing your business model and doing different things. So it's great to have you join me today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on. It's awesome. I love talking to all different sorts of people. It's great. Thank you.
Well, what we're going to talk about today is something that we all experience in varying degrees, and it's also how we cope or learn to live with this, and it's stress. And over the last year with COVID and everything else, I think everyone's stress levels have increased even further. And I was actually looking at a study done in the US, and an American psychology had put out an article to say that women are likely to report physical and emotional symptoms linked to their stress more so than men. And so I want to talk to you today about how we can recognize the stress in our body. Actually, that there is some, stress can be good. It just depends what type of stress it is, and also what we can do to support ourselves. So that's what I'd like to chat to you today. And you do a lot of work with women around this area on ways to manage stress, all about menopause and all those sort of things. And menopause itself can be quite a stressful time of life as well. So firstly, can we talk about the different types of stress and how they affect our body?
Yeah. So you've got the good stress, which is that quick stress that happens when there's an emergency. So if we think about it from stress as, the lion chasing you way back in the primitive times, with the stress in the body, the cortisol that rises and all the different hormones that rise allow us to run and get away from that lion that's chasing us. So that's a danger, but it's very, very short-lived stress. Once the danger has passed and we've got away from the lion, then our body resumes back into that parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. And so we go about our business. But in today's world, we don't have lions chasing us. But what we do have is what's called chronic stress. And it can be chronic low-level stress as well. Things like, that you're not happy in your job, but you have to go to this job every single day, which causes that low-level stress. And over time, that can compound with other lifestyle factors and other life stresses to make a great big ball of what we call chronic stress. And that form of stress is what can cause all of the medical conditions and problems within your body. So that's the form of stress that I'm looking at trying to help people heal from.
Yes, and we can do, there are things we can do to manage the stress, and we are all individuals, aren't we? So what might be a stressful situation for someone else might go, they're quite laid back about it, doesn't affect them at all. Some of us are what you would term warriors, and we stress out about the littlest things, but that can be changed, can't it? We can overcome those sort of symptoms to reduce the stress in our life.
Absolutely. If I look at myself, I come from a lot of that perfectionistic type of role playing where everything has to be perfect. And I was very much like that from a young age. And over the years, I've had to break that down and look at that in a different way and recognize what that was doing to my body internally. So, that perfectionistic gene that I know a lot of women have, and I talk about that a lot too, is something that we need to break down, find out what's really behind that, so then we can start healing and moving forward from it. And alleviating those stress responses that we get in our body. And everyone is really different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different traumatic events that have happened in our life, and all these things accumulate over the years. But I think the main thing is if we can just stop, give ourselves some space and grace to recognize what's going on for us. So then we know how to better equip ourselves and give ourselves the tools to be able to alleviate stress. So you might not ever get away from that perfectionistic gene. It's always going to be there. You just handle it better.
And I think
that's the key.
Yes. And I wanted to just talk about that because I was having a conversation. I went in the Mother's Day run with my daughter, which we do every year. It's a lovely tradition, and we run in memory of my mum. And my daughter's an executive coach, and she's a very wise woman. And we were running along, and we started to talk about me and the way that I'm quite driven, and I strive for perfection all the time. I'm very much wanting to please other people and to make sure everyone's okay. And I'm not going to go into the backstory, but it was so interesting how she brought out by chatting with me, she sort of hit the nail on the head on perhaps why I was that way. And I'd never really stopped to examine why do I put the pressure on myself to be perfect? Or there's nothing wrong in trying your best, but there's also no need sometimes to try and do 150% better. So I think it's important, that point that you raised about thinking about why you are in that situation, because you talk about the perfectionist gene, but I think it does come from way back, perhaps even in our childhood, the environment we were brought up in, other experiences, and you keep that deep down. And I think once you recognize that, I'm sure that helps you to cope with, for example, that feeling of having to be perfect all the time, or you say do 10 push-ups, I'll do 20, or something like that, to always be trying to prove that that's right. So I thought that was a good point that you raised there.
It is. I call it a gene. It's not actually a gene, but it makes sense to call it a gene. I think that, and I think that as a midlife woman too, I deal and I see a lot of midlife women, same as me. We start to want to understand ourselves better at midlife. You know, our children are getting older. We've got more time to think about these sorts of things. We want to really think about what we want to do with the rest of our life. And so that's when it can really start to come out. And that's the time, I believe, that is the best time to start unpacking what's going on, because we do have the time to be able to do that. In as far as we're not as busy with family and that sort of thing. So just thinking about, how do you unpack that? How do you understand you better? And for me, writing does that. That's not going to be for everyone though. So I know a lot of people don't like to journal or don't like to write. So then you start thinking about, well, what are other ways that you really enjoy your life? How can you get more joy or put more joy into your life? And then these things start to fall into place. And obviously, you know, getting psychological help and all that sort of thing to help unpack as well is very important if you feel you need it.
And that's becoming a little bit more well, acceptable is the wrong word, but there used to be a real stigma about it. And I think now people are realizing that, you know, there's nothing wrong in reaching out for help if you need to understand something, and to reach out for a professional to help you, because that's what they're trained in.
That's right. And I hold no shame in saying that, you know, 4 years ago, that was the best thing I ever did for myself, was go and get professional help. It just helped me understand myself and unpack me so much better. So I do think that is, the stigma is coming away from getting that mental care that you need. And I think that everyone, you know, that needs it should definitely seek it out. There is no stigma in asking for help at all.
No, certainly not. So we're talking about stress and how we can try to support ourselves, and what we can do to reduce it, because sometimes we do have situations that we can't avoid. They might be a very challenging moment in our life. It could be anything, like we've just come through last October, my mother-in-law passed away, and even though she was 94, it was sudden. We weren't expecting it. I was saying to her, oh, I've got your 100th birthday party planned, and then I was talking to her on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday she was in hospital. And so we've had that to deal with, and a lot of people have that feeling of loss. It's a very stressful time when you lose someone, and lots of administrative things going on as well. So life will always be bringing these challenges to us. And I think it's more about the coping mechanisms that we can use to just control that stress that, you know, happens as a result of it. So what would you advise to people on? What's some of your tips or ideas for coping with stress or relieving the stress when it hits?
So with the stress itself, if there's a stress there that you can't remove, then you need to, first of all, give yourself grace and give yourself space to be able to feel through the stress. I think one of the things that a lot of us try and do is push the stress away. So we'll try and push it down or push it away. And I don't think that helps anyone in the long run. I think that we do need to actually feel through the moments and allow ourselves the time to do that while we're doing everything else on top, because I know that, you know, it is a busy time, especially when you do lose someone. But also there are other things that you can do. And I talk about movement a lot because, you know, that's something that I feel very passionate about. And so moving your body helps to alleviate some of the stress. You know, if you like to go for a walk, or if you like to be in nature, go for a bit of a hike, go and hug a tree and actually touch the trees. They give off this beautiful energy just being in their presence. So it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to go and do a 10-kilometer run to get the effects. You just need to go and move your body in any way, shape or form that feels good for you. Dancing, You know, grabbing a ball and throwing it against a wall can help alleviate so much stress. Really little things. And then you've got things like people that are very creative and like craft, immersing yourself in some form of craft or drawing or journaling. And again, it doesn't have to be for a long time. It can be 5 minutes in a day. And even something as simple as taking a big, deep breath in and then just letting that breath out slowly. All of those things can really help towards just taking the lid off that steam pot a little bit, just giving you some space and some time to relax that nervous system back down.
Yes, I agree that the movement is important. We both are in the fitness industry as well, and but you know, for me, going for a walk, I live near the ocean, and you get out there into nature, going for a mindfulness walk, which has really only become, I suppose, more information about it, but it's just going out there, turning that mobile phone off and actually taking in your surroundings as you walk along. That can be so calming, can't it?
It's absolutely beautiful. And the effects that it has on your body, even 7 days after, they've shown in studies that if you're out in nature, the effects are still lasting on your body and your cortisol levels 7 days later. So imagine if you did that every single day. That's just helping alleviate the stress every single day. And that's what we need. And again, for that daily chronic stress, even if it's not something that has happened, it's just you don't like your job, you're in a bad situation, whatever it is. Again, just taking 5-10 minutes, it doesn't have to be a long time because I know we're all time poor, and removing yourself from the daily life picture into movement or into a journal, into a book, into craft, into breath work, whatever it is for you, and giving yourself that space to do that. So important.
Yes, because sometimes you can get to the point with stress where it just fatigues you so much that you don't feel like doing anything. So you've got to get over, you've got to get over that little hurdle, because as soon as you do something, it changes everything.
Yep. You feel so much better. And that hurdle is actually quite a big hurdle when you think about it. So that's why I say to people, don't say, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. Just say, I'm going to go out my doorstep and walk up the street for 5 minutes and see how that feels. If I want to keep going, I'll keep going. If I don't, then that's okay too. So it's taking the expectation away from I have to I can do this. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah, very important. So we've talked about movement. How does our diet affect us with stress?
So we all know if you eat something that, you know, is what I don't like to label foods good and bad, but say you eat a burger from one of the burger chains and you get that slumpy feeling afterwards, like feel a bit yucky. Yeah. So if we are constantly compounding with those sorts of foods, then that can have a detrimental effect on how we feel in our body. So again, that compounding low-level chronic stress that happens because we're not feeding ourselves with good fibrous foods, with good green leafies, with all the colors of the rainbow. So it's okay to have those foods, excuse me, once in a while, but we want to move away from having them all the time and looking at nourishing our body with all of the beautiful colors of the rainbow to make sure that we're looking after ourselves, especially in that time of stress, and also making sure that we hydrate. hydration is huge. It has a major effect on our body and on our stress levels if we haven't got enough water in our system. So what it does, aside from what it does, with all of our organs, our connective tissue needs hydration to be able to move properly. So if you're not well hydrated, you can feel really sticky in your joints and achy in your body. So water is a massive one, and I think it's quite often overlooked.
Well, it is, because I rarely hear that associated with stress or helping the stress levels. So there's many other reasons given for staying hydrated, but stress isn't usually up there on the top. So the other thing is, when we are stressed, it is hard to not just reach for some something quick and sugary or get a takeaway because we're just not in the right headspace to cook a healthy meal or things like that. So there's ways we can sort of help ourselves avoid those situations, aren't there?
Yeah, and look, when you are stressed, sometimes you do crave the sugar or that sort of stuff. It's quite common for you to want to feed the brain in that way, which is fine. And what I say to people is, if you want to do that, then go ahead and do that, and then say to yourself, okay, well, then I'll have a banana for afternoon tea, or I'll have an apple for afternoon tea. So we're doing this balancing act of giving to ourselves in the way that we want to, but then also making sure we're nourishing ourselves as well. So there's a balance there. And I think that's really important, because if we're constantly thinking, oh, well, I can't have that piece of cake because that's not good for me, well, then that again is feeding into I'm not good enough stress response. Where if we say, yeah, we'll have the cake, and then, I'll have a banana for afternoon tea, or I'll have an apple, or I'll have a beautiful salad for dinner. So it's talking to ourselves in that way that we're not putting ourselves down.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too, because also the more you say I can't have that, the more you want to have it. If you just have a piece of cake, okay, I've had it, done it, now I'll go back to my healthy eating for a while, and I've had my little treat, if that's what you call it.
Exactly.
So, and I'm finding that as well. I think that you've got to just be a little bit kinder to yourself in all areas of life. And I'm big on being healthy and keeping my fitness level. I want to be fit and healthy into my old age. I've got family histories of different medical conditions I have to be concerned about, but also I think there's nothing like just finding joy in life and doing things that bring you joy. And that's also you don't want to have to live your life sort of following rules all the time. You just want to be able to relax and just enjoy the moment, I think. As long as that moment, perhaps, like you eat too much of the wrong foods, it's not good for you. So as long as you choose those moments, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and I think, a big thing that I always talk about with everyone is joy. Where is the joy in your life? Where are you finding joy? And what does joy look like for you? Like even writing those things down, because joy is what is going to alleviate stress. When was the last time you had a good laugh? When was the last time that, you went and threw a ball around? When was the last time you played? Like play is just a huge factor in helping alleviate stress.
And it's so underestimated. Yeah.
It really is.
Well,
the other thing as well is social connection, being socially connected with other people, not on your phone, actually in person, if that's possible. I know with COVID that's changed a lot, but trying to get together in person with people human connection is a game changer.
Oh yes, certainly. And it just also, you go and have a cup of coffee with someone, and it takes you out of that stress for a while. You sort of forget about things, and then you come back and you think, oh, I feel pretty good, and I'll be able to cope with whatever that stress is at the moment. And like you were talking about play, and I think you look at children, and I know I spend time with my grandsons each week, and they just get so much joy out of the littlest things, and we have so much fun because they want Nan to get in there and do it with them. Exactly. And which is another reason why I need to be fit and healthy, because jumping on trampolines or playing hide and seek, and they'll want you to get into some obscure little corner, but that is so much fun, and you sort of forget about that. Or even when you go to the park, I'll get on the swing with them, and I'll have a swing, and that brings me back to one of my favourite childhood memories of having a swing in the backyard. So sort of, I know, getting back to your childhood, your inner child, everyone talks about that, but you know what, I know what you mean. It's about just enjoying it and having a bit of fun, and I think the kids have the purest form of fun, don't they?
They do. And if you watch, as you say, you watch them and you can see that they are just in the whole moment. They're right in that moment in time. Nothing else matters. And that's what I think lacks in our adult world, is we're too consumed with everything that's going on and trying to control everything in our life. We're too technologically put together. There's too much of this technology going on, so we've got way too much information overload. So can we simplify our life in some ways, even if that is turning the phone off for 1 hour a day and immersing yourself in something like that like the kids do? I mean, for instance, this morning we at one of my classes, we played tunnel ball. So we had 2 teams with tunnel ball. And these women are all over 50 women, all having an absolute ball of a time playing tunnel ball, trying to compete against each team. And I heard a couple of them at the end of the session say, that took me straight back to my childhood.
Yeah. I was just thinking that. I thought I haven't played that since school. So yeah.
Nothing else mattered in that moment.
But you talk about technology, and I think the technological overload that we get, the information overload. And I know myself lately, I've been taking on a few too many things on my plate, and my mind is just constantly going. And I think that, I've had to make Sundays a day. I just turn out. Because social media, it can take over, and there's, I mean, I see people walk, especially younger people, walking along the street, texting or looking at their phone, and I'm thinking, it's a beautiful day out here, but your brain needs to have a rest. So I would think also that sleep is another important factor in reducing stress levels.
Absolutely. So sleep is a major one, and anyone knows that if you've had a really bad night's sleep, how horrible do you feel that next day? You just don't feel right. You feel all sorts of out of sort. So, I know sleep is a big one. It's a hard one to navigate for a lot of people. So I've got, just some really simple things that can help. And one of those things is getting rid of the phone out of your bedroom. Or if you use the phone for your alarm clock, which I know a lot of people do, either buy an alarm clock from Kmart that's really cheap, or put your phone on silent, but the alarm will still go off. And don't look at your phone for at least an hour before bed. So then the blue light that is emitted from the phones raises cortisol levels in your body that tells you that you should still be awake. So it disrupts our circadian rhythm. So allowing yourself that time to get off all computers, all technology, at least an hour before bed, and don't pick it up in the middle of the night. I know some women that I've coached have got into the habit of picking it up in the middle of the night because they've woken back up again. Don't do it. Grab yourself a book, go and get a cup of water, have a little bit of a walk around, maybe even a stretch. Start doing some breath work and then go back to bed. But don't look at your phone. It's one of the worst things you can do. So switching off at least one day a week. I try and do the same as you. So it's not always possible, but I try and get a chunk of time, you know, like 4 or 5 hours where I can not look at it. Because, you know, when we do what we do, we need social media, and we're on social media a fair bit.
Yes. But I think, you know, for me, I've just found that the way I can cope with things is just taking that step back, taking a deep breath and going, you know, the world's not going to end because I don't do this. So I'm prioritizing things a little bit better, which I think is another thing as well with stress. You need to probably plan and prioritize, have a bit of a routine there in your life so that you've got some stability and consistency there, which I think would help your stress levels.
Absolutely. So knowing when you're going, especially when you run your own business as well, because it can become all consuming. So, you know, knowing when you're going to go on social media and even planning, okay, so for this hour, I'm going to sit on social media and do what I need to do, and then have a little bit of a scroll and look at what other people are doing as well. So, because that's a connection thing. But then sticking to that and then taking yourself off it. You've almost got to be a little bit ruthless with yourself with social media and technology, I find, because it seems to, it's like, it's been, you know, likened to playing the pokies or, you know, things like that. It draws the brain in. The brain wants the dopamine hit from what you're looking at. So the brain wants more and more of that. So it's almost like you've got to cut it off.
Yeah, need a bit more nature, getting out into nature. Yeah. Now, we're sort of coming towards the end, but a couple of things I want to cover before we do close. Firstly, you've recently taken a new direction in your business, and I'd like to talk about that, because before we came on air, I said how well you were looking, how I'd noticed a complete change, and that you felt I was getting a positive aura from you, where I really thought you looked happy, and you that was what you said to me. You said, I feel happy. And that's so important. And that's another topic we can cover another time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing over the last 6 months and the new direction that you're going in.
So I basically split my business in two. So my Me Active side of things has taken off in regards to the mature age fitness. And so I do Active and Healthy Gold Coast City Council classes. And I've got more into the balance, brain, memory, cognitive function side of things with my classes, which has been going really well. So that's Me Active. And then I opened up just recently Rochelle and Coach. So what was happening was I have a lot of one-on-one clients that come to me for different issues, pelvic floor organ prolapse. And then I've got women who may not have moved in a very long time and don't know how to start. And, you know, a lot of people with chronic conditions and medical issues. But then I also started to see where women midlife, this transition that they were facing, that they were going through, there was a big gap in how they understood how they worked, like their own body worked, but also how they worked and where they were right now in their life. And so I started unpacking that. So I guess you could say it's more that personal development side of things. And so we started unpacking, who are they and what do they want from the rest of their life? Like, where am I going with my life? And so that sort of just fell into my lap. And before I knew it, that's what I was doing. So I decided to split the business in two because it was getting a little bit difficult for people to navigate what I was
What's
actually
that?
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got Rochelle and Coach and Me Active now.
Well, that's all exciting, and I hope it's not adding to your stress levels doing that, but
No,
it can't
no.
be if you're looking so good. So yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's pretty exciting. But we've covered a few things today about stress, things like the physical stress that happens to us, going for a walk and stepping back, journaling, eating well, sleeping well, just finding ways to be kind to ourselves, perhaps, going back to our childhood and playing tunnel ball, or going on a swing, or throwing a ball and just playing and enjoying ourselves. So it's been great to chat with you. Now, before you go, I do always ask my guests the same question at the end, so I'll be interested to hear yours. And the question is, what does it mean to you to be a woman living well after 50? Or in your case, you're not 50 probably, but
not quite.
Yeah, so
close.
What does it mean? Okay, I'll rephrase that. So what does it mean to be a woman living well?
It means knowing who I am, and also knowing the direction I'm going in, and to understand my health as well, to understand my health and take control of my health, the things that I can control with my health. So living, a healthy and well, overall holistic life. That's important to me.
Yeah, I like that, taking control of your health, because that could mean a couple of things, actually. Taking control and responsibility for what you can in terms of how you live, getting your movement, finding something you enjoy. You don't have to be running a marathon or, working out in the gym. You can be finding something you enjoy. So that movement, eating well, having your regular checkups at the doctors and your screenings. So they're all things you can control. But I think another point that I thought of when you said that was, how often do we go to the doctor or a specialist or whatever, and they tell us something and we just accept that? And it's sort of being a little bit more, I suppose, prepared to ask questions, to try and really understand it, rather than just saying, oh, okay, whatever, you're the professional, accept it. So whilst we can't control sometimes when we do get ill, there are lots of ways that we can. And I think that was something that came to mind when you said that, about controlling our health, even in the care that we may need in the future, trying to keep that little bit more in control. Yeah.
Ask the questions, be an advocate for your own health. You know your body better than anybody else. And that's what I like to teach. And that's what I do with my own healthcare as well.
Well, I will be putting in the show notes all the ways that listeners can discover who you are and what you do, and connect with you. So there's lots of great information there, and I follow Rochelle certainly, and I've known her for a little while now. So thanks so much for joining me today, Rochelle.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful, as always, Sue.
It was. I would like to keep talking, but we do have to keep to time. But for those of you that have been listening today, I hope that you've found the conversation valuable. And if you have, I'd love you to share it with someone who might find it interesting and informative as well. And don't forget, if you've liked the episode, to give us a thumbs up and a like, and perhaps leave a comment. And also don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. It's been great talking to Rochelle today about how we can reduce our stress. And remember, one way to do that is to live well and enjoy life. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.